signs you out.
Hey.
We've been talking a lot. So let's continue. And you were saying about the helicopters, which I observed also, how the helicopters were hovering down on the protesters. And in my opinion, they have just, that is their effort. And now you see this language, there's a them and us, there's a divide already. Okay. So this is an effort to demonize the protesters, to make it seem like a military operation, almost being treated as terrorist groups. You know, that's what they're being called. Like, they're terrorists, they're criminals, they're anarchists. You know, and their effort to practice, the exercise their First Right Amendment is being violated.
You know, but you said it earlier, you know, you mentioned propaganda, you know, so I think that's certainly a part of it too, because you also, whenever there's a protest, you also have people who are planted as agitators, you know, to spark stuff off, you know, to disrupt the peaceful protest. You have people who, you know, believe some of the propaganda that's out there, and that's how you get these guys who want to run their car into a crowd of people. You know?
Did you see that? So, they ran the car through protesters.
And that's not the first time. You understand? So, you know, but we need to talk about those things, you know, because it kind of gets swept under the rug a little bit. Like, you know, these things don't end up being major news, you know, that, you know, when these things happen, or when a church, you know, is burned down or something like that, because, and not to take any accountability away from the people, the individual who did it, but the ideas and the propaganda that they're fed to believe this about a certain group of people is simply untrue and insane to, you know, but they believe it and they hold on to it. And so you can't really, I don't think, completely blame Donald Trump. I think he's a very easy target, the same way George Bush Jr. was an easy target, but they represent a mental state of a certain group of people that want it to be that way, you know? So Donald Trump is not the only racist in the United States. He's representing someone, a faction of people who believe, and he's carrying out the beliefs of a certain group of folk, you know? So it's easy. He's the easy target, you know? Oh, he's orange hair, blah, blah, blah. But all of that is the fluff, the petty stuff that don't even matter. You know, what matters is how it's shaping us right now. And we're losing our democracy.
That's what it feels like. You said
the democracy that we've had.
You have kind of nailed it. And, you know, when I came to this country first, I felt like, you know, I'm finally in a democracy. I mean, Pakistan is also a democratic country. However, for example, the freedom of press is not completely there. Free press is not there completely. And now when you see some of the footage, video people, channels are being attacked, you know, are pushed aside, are being... Yeah. So what is this? Is this an attempt?
It's insane. We watched the guy from CNN, he get arrested.
So is this an attempt to suppress the press? To suppress news? Is it an attempt to infringe on that amendment right that we have? A right to free speech and free press? You know? So this is definitely, the democracy is being dwindled right in front of our eyes. This is not the America that I know.
It's possible that it's a concerted effort. You know? I said it's possible that it is a concerted effort to dismantle, you know, the government. I mean, because, you know, again, we single that out, but it's still complex. So not only was he arrested on live TV, he was also a black man being arrested on live TV while he's, you know, legitimately working, yes, covering a story.
Trevor Noah, he's a commentator from South Africa, and he talks a lot about apartheid. He talks about a lot about racism and institutional racism. And he made a comment about police came at protesters who were protesting police brutality with more police brutality. So it was like a double, like a negative. Like, we are here protesting police brutality, and you're doing more of that to us, And they were just exercising their basic rights, and yet there was rubber bullets, there were tear gas. I can't believe that these are the visions of an America that we live in 2020. Let's read some of these comments again. Marine is saying, Trump's word, with all due respect to our president, he said, if you want something to become a belief, just keep repeating it, just like Chinese virus and Muslims are terrorists. Okay, so just keep repeating it. And what is that? Keep repeating it. That's the definition of propaganda. That is the definition of propaganda. Oh, okay. If I keep repeating it and repeating it, you will start believing it. And Precious is saying suppress reality. Yes. When you try to suppress the press and you start calling it fake news and you buy channels and you do things like that, you are trying to repress the press, and you're trying to repress what the people see and what they don't see.
For sure. Once all that stuff is gone, like, it's a wrap. I mean, we're already in a state where, we're dealing with deep fakes, where we have people can manipulate video footage or photos. One point it was just photos. People say, something was photoshopped, but they're able to do that with moving images, with videos now, to plant someone where they really wasn't, or to deep fake someone's voice. And like, these things are very frightening because we no longer know what's true and what's not true. If all of our media outlets are fake news, then
what's real?
What's real? And we're becoming, and this is why the divide is so dangerous, and why we need to come together, is because even at one point in time, the internet, you can search something. You can put something in the search engine, and it would give you everything that could possibly even be related to the term you typed in. Now it's fashioned to shape your beliefs, yours, Bushman's, David's,
right,
Gina's, and so it limits your scope. It puts blinders on you, and so then we fall into being victims of confirmation bias. Let me type this in. See, I told you.
This is what it is there to reinforce. If you have a certain belief, it's there to reinforce that. And Alina is saying, sadly, even the media is biased. Yes. And Gina is saying it's a very scary time. I agree with that. It is a very scary time, but it is also the time for action. It is also the time to mobilize in any shape, form that you can. As a Muslim, there is a belief that if something wrong is happening in society, the least you could do is say it's bad in your heart. The next level is you speak up against it. And the third level is that you take action against it. So fighting against injustice is part of religious beliefs. It's part of societal beliefs. And that is why this movement, this wave that you're seeing all over the world is happening. It is not because, George Floyd died. So many have died. But this has sparked, ignited a movement in all over the world of emotion, of sorrow, of anger that people are feeling. We can't ignore that. I want to share with our listeners a definition of oppression that I wrote down also, because we talked about racism, how racism is based on the color of your skin. And I see you and I treat you a different way because I have a perception that that's how you are, based on my perception and based on your color skin. Then oppression is defined as a malicious treatment or exercise of power, often under government authority, like we are seeing right now. Oppression refers to discrimination when the injustice in society targets specific group of people. So it is targeted. Oppression is more targeted. Racism, I think, is more based on your bias of what you've learned. And it seems like oppression is more systemic. It's more targeted. It's more structural. What do you think, David?
I think those things are inseparable. You know, they're inextricably tied. Yeah, you know, because again, you know, racism isn't just about I don't like you, you know, bias. You know, it's ingrained within the fabric of our nation. Is how it was built. You know, people, the settlers who first came here, you know, they were trying to escape slavery, and they ended up inflicting it upon another group of people. You know, and so, you know, I think at least for this country, and I wonder, and anybody else who's not American born, I would like to know, like, how is it? Because I kind of feel like this kind of happens in a vacuum in the United States alone. Like our issues, the things, how it's primarily black and white. Everything is black and white. No one talks about, well, what do the Asians think? What do you know? Like at least I don't hear that. It's either black people or white people. You know, when there's a whole lot of other people who live here. You know, so as the outside folks looking at this tennis match, like, what are you seeing? What are you feeling? How do you perceive it? You know, how is it different from, you know, your country? You know, where you're from, like, you know, because Americans kind of have a tunnel vision by them believing that this is the greatest country on the earth. We don't have to think about. We have a president who keeps telling us that everything over here is the best, and what the process, the structure, everything is the best. So your question to your listeners is that, is it about black and white, or is it about non-white and white? Is that what your question is? Like what? You know, so I had I met a young lady from Ukraine, and when she came here, she didn't understand, from her view, this is what she said to me, racism between, you know, the discord between black people and white people. She's like, in her country, it's not really like that. And although there may be some biases, there may be some dislikes, you know, of groups of people, but the level to which, you know, it's expressed here in the United States is not like the other places. I mean, I don't know that. I'm not that as well traveled, but I would like to know. You told me that you didn't even know black people were like a part of this country, you know. I came here at a very young age, and I told you the only exposure I had to black history was through the series of Roots that was shown in Pakistan, and I watched the whole series. And when I came here, I was under the impression, because of my comprehension of the series was not that detailed as a young child. So I thought perhaps it's mostly whites who live here. It's mostly Caucasians. But I guess I came primarily to DC, which is the capital, and there's a huge African American population. So I was surprised to see so many African American people. Because I was not aware of that, you know. But I'll tell you something from I will tell you something though. In our country, there is colorism. There is colorism. There is socioeconomic gaps, and the colorism is, you know, if you're the lighter you are, the better you're treated. We're all Pakistanis. Yes, we have our different regions and they kind of riff with each other, but colorism exists very prominently. Mm. The lighter you are, the more privileged you are. The treatment is going to be better. Yes, in society. So colorism exists. Socioeconomic status. So your socioeconomic status is going to make a difference. What class you come from, how much money you have. That's going to make a difference also. So, and that is also, I think, a remnant of
colonization that happened in Pakistan, in Southeast Asia, and the master race being from Great Britain. So, so that concept of the lighter you are, the better you're treated, I think comes from that. It comes. We have some comments.
Yeah.